Hello and welcome to Church at Home with Rachael for Thursday, the 9th of June. I I just finished watching Beau of the Fifth Column talking about toxic masculinity, and it really was great timing because it tied in with the conversation I had with my husband yesterday. I'd like to talk about toxic genderism. I think there's this sense that there's a growing sense in conversation about toxic masculinity, and there has been for a lot of years some some heavy conversation about feminism and the feminist movement and things like that, and people getting right upset and sometimes in your face about what that means. I, for many times in my life, someone has like asked me a question like, "Are you a feminist?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know. What is a feminist? I don't understand what you mean by that. I was born in 1971. I mean, the feminist movement was up and running. Girls were allowed to wear pants to school. Women were allowed to have jobs. I've said before that in my own denomination as an Anglican in Canada, in my diocese, women were ordained priests when I was 5 or 6 years old. So my whole growing up years, on the surface, there was no one telling me you can't do that because you're a woman. And yet, over the years, I've also found that there have been many glass ceilings. There have been many men who have been male clergy who have been quite disdainful that I could be ordained. As a matter of fact, when I moved to the Diocese of Nova Scotia in Prince Edward Island in 2012, I went to my first synod. So that's sort of the general meeting, happens every couple of years for the whole diocese. So all the churches in both provinces get together, and I was about to participate in communion and sharing the bread at the communion service at the convention center, and I was paired with an older gentleman who was a retired priest, and he asked me my name. I told him I was the new rector at St. James Anglican Church Armdale in Halifax, and he said, "Oh, you must be the associate priest at St. James." I said, "Well, no, I'm the rector." And he said, "Well, that can't possibly be the truth because they would never hire a female priest." The lay women, the women with me who were not clergy, were absolutely appalled. Their mouths dropped. They were just like, "What? That he said that?" And this was a priest they'd known for years. And he didn't apologize. He didn't feel the need to. He was quite sincere in his belief that because I was a woman, I was not worthy of, nor would I be called to be the head priest of that particular church. And the ladies were aghast. And I just reassured him that yes, indeed, my contract did say that I was the rector and I had been hired by the selection committee, and wished him all the best and continued to move forward to administer the communion. And it didn't even really faze me until one of the ladies came up after and spoke to me about it. And I said, "I can't change the way he feels. Me arguing with him or getting angry with him or frustrated will only frustrate me. It will it will ruin my day. I have already caused him great distress by not bowing to his wishes and declining the position of rector. That is his issue to deal with. It's not mine. It's his." I remember when I was first getting married, this was my husband and I were talking about yesterday. When I was first getting married, I was engaged, and went the clergy women in the diocese threw a bridal shower for me. It was beautiful. We had fun. We had played all those silly games. Instead of putting the bows from gifts on a hat, or an apron, they put one on a stole that I wore around my neck, and we had a great deal of fun. And then the conversation came up about that I would, of course, because my maiden name was on my diplomas for my undergraduate degree and my master's degree, I would, of course, and I was ordained as Rachael Walker, I would, of course, be keeping my maiden name. I wouldn't be changing my name. And without a beat, I said, "Well, why wouldn't I? Of course I'm going to become Rachael Parker." And it was like the air was sucked out of the room. These professional clergy women could not understand how I could give up my maiden name to take on a married name when I was a professional woman. And the biggest problem didn't seem to be about the concept of it, but that my diplomas on my wall would have a different name than the name on my door. It didn't make sense to me. I asked my husband about that too, and he said no, he got a bit of flack from people, and one priest in particular sort of took him aside and said, "How dare you expect her to do that?" The truth is, Rob did not expect me to do that. He fully expected that I would make the decision myself, which I did. I informed him that I was going to take his name because to me, we were becoming husband and wife. We were becoming one person in God's eyes, and together we would work, and together we have a ministry. I am the priest that I am today very much because almost 17 years ago, I married another person who helped to develop me into who I am. I was already a priest before I met him, before I married him, but he has continued to help me become a better priest, a better person, a better wife, a better woman. But there was a significant bit of snapback about me choosing to do that because in some way, shape, or form, I was giving up my femininity, giving up my power to be a woman because I was bowing to my future husband. And that is not how I saw that. I saw that as, in some ways, rising above that, so that he and I together, could become the people God made us to be together. I have always struggled with this idea of feminism. I am not a very feminine person. I am darn near 6 feet tall, and I am not a, I am, I am not a, I'm not a will-o'-the-wisp. I am not tiny by any means. And so I have never been someone that anyone would look at and say she's a feminine kind of person. I have large hands for a woman. My feet aren't that big, but nobody looks at my feet. I have, I have a large head, but it fits nicely, I think, on my shoulders. If I had a bigger head, I would look disproportionate. If I had a smaller head, same thing. So I think I'm well put together. I think that God did a good thing when God made me. I don't wear a lot of pink because I just don't look good in pink. I don't feel comfortable in pink. I don't wear frills because frills make me itch. I have male clergy shirts because they fit more comfortably. And truth be told, I can buy a male clergy shirt for $40 where I'd have to pay $65 for a female clergy shirt. There we got a problem with feminism here. If it costs more money to have the same amount of material sewn in a little bit different way, there's an issue. There's something wrong with our society, I think, when we hang so much up on gender, on feminists, on women having to fight for something. I don't think that women should have to fight for the right. I don't think that women should have rights taken away from them. I don't think that Roe v. Wade should be overturned. And I take issue with the fact that there are places in Canada where there are doctors who do gynecological things for women who do not advertise their address. When you make an appointment with them for anything at all, you find out their address when your appointment is made and when you have to come because they fear people picketing them for regardless of what it is they do because of the assumption of what they do. Women should not have to be afraid to ask for help for their bodies that were created the way they are, nor should men. I think that it's a shame that when I was growing up in school, home economics was co-ed. We had boys and girls in our classes. Same thing with with the wood shop. But there was a strong sense that in our home ec class that the girls were expected to do well, and the boys were watched over and petted by the teacher because they were trying hard, but this wasn't the natural place for them to be, sewing and in the kitchen, and vice versa. When I went to do machine shop and do woodworking and things like that, our teacher, a male teacher, spent literally no time helping the girls to make their projects, but all kinds of time showing the guys how to run the machines properly and how to do fancier curves and do things like that. That was in the 80s, and I'm hoping things have changed. But this sense that there are girl jobs and boy jobs, or men's roles and women's roles, ridiculous. The fact that women have to fight for STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, for young girls. Women's minds also, we may think differently, we may work differently. I don't know the biology of brains, but I do know that there are lots of young women out there who are engineer minded, who are technical and can figure things out. There are also lots of young men out there who are incredibly artistic and really enjoy literature or the arts, or are incredible nurses and teachers, things that used to be the women's role versus the men's. Beau mentioned toxic masculinity and what that means and where it came from. I think there's also toxic femininity, and it does just as much damage to the average woman as toxic masculinity does to men. I think we need to come above both. think we need to let go of this whole thing about feminism and masculinism. And what we need to do is look at humanity. We are recognizing now that there are lots and lots of people there who, out in the world, who are really discovering who they are. And whether or not their biology matches their psychology is nothing to be sneezed at. It can no longer be assumed that just because you have one particular gender's parts physically means that in yourself, in your soul, you think that way, or you are that way, that before you look in the mirror in the morning, that who you see is not necessarily going to be what you see. We need to accept that because, to be quite frank, for generations and generations, the whole which parts do you have and which parts do you not have has only caused us problems. Maybe we need to let go of that. Let's let go of all the toxic genderism and start looking at each other as human beings. People who are made in the image of God, people who are worthy of love for simply the fact that they breathe and that they have something to contribute and they have something to receive. Let's start looking at one another and seeing people and not worrying so much about which box they fit in. Because you know what? Our world is filled with boxes that we need to recycle. Let's move away from masculinity and femininity and all those things that those mean, unless the person chooses those for themselves. And let's move toward looking at each other as human beings and look toward humanity so that we don't end up with a world filled with toxic humans, but rather humans who uphold and support and encourage other humans. Thank you for listening to my little spiel about humanity. Because you know what? I'm a girl. I like being a girl. I don't have any clothes that look like girls' clothes, and that doesn't make any difference. I am who I am, and I am totally okay with that. And I hope you are totally okay with who you are too, because whether we've met or not, I'm totally okay with you the way you are. Have a great day, and God bless you.